This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwall podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 374 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund's 4-1 win against Werder Bremen. We will preview tomorrow's match against Union Berlin, and we will discuss the Super League and the UEFA Champions League reform. So lots to get to. For all that and more, joins me Konstantin Eckner. I'm very glad to have you back. Hey Konstantin, how are you doing?
Hey Stefan, I'm doing quite well. Just, slow news day of this whole Super League drama. But yeah, that's about it, I guess. I mean, it came out of left field in a way. It just took us by surprise that all of a sudden the football world is not what it has been for so long.
Yeah, I think if you release it around midnight on Sunday, I think that's considered a news dump.
I guess it was more targeted to the US audience, right, Stefan?
Yeah, obviously, because it kind of ruined my Sunday
It was
night.
midnight in Europe, but it was still sunshine in, Pittsburgh.
I don't know if there was still sunshine in Pittsburgh, but on the West Coast maybe. But yeah, I mean, do you want to talk about the Super League first, and then talk about the UEFA League reform, and then talk about Borussia Dortmund? I can do that way maybe too. I think we can dive right here with the Super League. I mean, I'll give a little description. I know it's not going to be complete, and that is down to me not doing all the research, and also B, to the Super League TM not really coming out with too many details. But we have 12 founding members of this super exclusive league, with Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Tottenham from the Premier League. Then you have Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, and Barcelona from La Liga, from Spain, and Juventus, Inter, and AC Milan from Serie A. And another 3 club, according to documents from Der Spiegel, that they have that they attained or whatever. That said, that PSG, Bayern Munich, and Dortmund sort of have an pending invite, which I think in Dortmund's and Bayern's case they have 30 days to react. And PSG had 2 weeks. I don't know what exactly the date of this invite is. And anyway, so that would make 15 teams if you add these 3 to the 12, and then basically you would have 5 more spots to any other team that are up for invitation. And I'm not entirely sure how that will be decided and what exactly the modus then is. I think it's a bit like the new Champions League reform, where there are a couple of games like a league table, and then from that you have teams qualifying for a knockout round. I guess there's a cutoff, something like that. So immediately you had UEFA come out threatening that players will be excluded from national teams that participate. You had domestic associations basically say they will remove Super League participants from their respective domestic leagues, and I think Bayern and PSG have quite clearly formulated that they will refuse the invite, and Dortmund also do not want to participate, but they cannot outright refuse it because they have to keep in mind that they're a publicly traded company, and if you just sort of refuse 200 million potentially when you just made 75 million euros in losses, that's maybe not the easiest way to explain to your stock and stakeholders. So Konstantin, obviously a big clusterfuck, a lot of outrage, and and a lot of stupid stuff that was said by Florentino Perez. What's your take on this entire situation?
I mean, we can start with the least surprising thing that Florentino Perez is going out there and talking out of his rear side. So that's the least surprising thing of
But
all
he's
of that.
saving football. He's on a mission to save football. That's my
Yes, of course he is. Of course, I mean that's kind of his MO from the get go, right? He's saving football. He has been saving football for the past 20, 30 years or so. Of course, yes. Florentino Perez is here to save the world, basically, and he will also feed the hungry. But
Konstantin, maybe this is a good moment to just like reminisce, maybe light a candle, and just appreciate all the service of Florentino Perez. Without him, we would all be unemployed. We would not be able to cover football because it just wouldn't exist. And now, maybe after 2024, clubs wouldn't even be there. Football would just exist. Every soccer ball would just go out in a puff of smoke, like in the Avengers films. It's just all gone, according to him. So
yes,
you have to keep all that in mind while we discuss the Super League.
Well, anyway, I mean, there are like a thousand things I can tell, I can talk about, but one notable thing, I guess, it's also when we just here on the topic of Florentino Perez. I mean, as we said, the announcement basically, there will be a breakaway Super League and so on was midnight in Europe, at least midnight from Sunday to Monday, and then from that point on, of course, I mean the entire outrage happened, and as expected, right? But interestingly, there wasn't really any communication by any of the English-speaking owners, for instance. So it was Florentino Perez talking on a Spanish news channel. In Spanish, of course, yes, but there was nothing by the English-speaking owners, talking to the international audience, to the global audience in a way. I know there are many people speaking Spanish, but still, it's kind of interesting that he was the only one, and even the Italian ones, other than maybe Agnelli. I haven't seen much from him recently or lately in the past few hours, but there wasn't really any communication from the other clubs. It was just Real Madrid, and also that tells you something. And I mean, that's now basically confirmed that Real Madrid and probably Manchester United with the Glazers and Andrea Agnelli, Fiat and Juventus, they are the driving forces behind this whole thing. So there are some who are driving this, and there are some who are just lucky participants, or even, in the case of maybe AC Milan, Internazionale. Internazionale is struggling financially in some way, and the owners looking for maybe potentially to sell the club. The Chinese company Suning. Of course, AC Milan now owned, not by the Chinese anymore, but by Americans. Arsenal, Stan Kroenke, and so on. So there are some who are just happy to be there. I think especially Arsenal and Tottenham, because you can argue, are they really worthy of being in a Super League if you take the word Super League literally. And then there are also, confirmed that there were 2 11-hour editions, Manchester City and Chelsea, which is also interesting. So that the Abu Dhabi-owned club and Roman Abramovich's club, they were not involved in many of the plannings. They were just asked in the week leading up to the announcement if they want to join, and they said yes, because I guess they thought like maybe they were missing out on something big.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there some Super League FOMO going on?
Yeah, right. But it's interesting that they were edited to this whole thing late, and also, I mean, just to be honest, you can be honest about the whole situation. The German clubs, the 2 German clubs, Bayern and Dortmund, they were present at some of the Europa Super League meetings, or Super League meetings. It's not even a European Super League; it's just Super League. And they were present at some of the meetings, and they decided, for various reasons, that they don't want to be part of it. Bayern don't want to be part of it, I think, for several reasons. First is that Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, the chiefs, the head of the executive board, is fairly fairly restrictively against investors having control over clubs or like total control over clubs. I mean, he acknowledges that you need investors, but he doesn't want to have like the oligarchs and so on having total control. So he despises some of these owners in a way. He wants to, I mean, because he himself, of course, also wants to have control. And also Bayern, as all the German clubs, there's the 50+1 rule. So there's an argument, maybe if you want to join a new competition, it's not like if you are a Bundesliga club and you qualify for the Champions League, then you don't have to have a vote. Do you want to compete in Champions League? Of course you want, because that's the structure you're in. But if you want to basically leave the Champions League, Europa League structure and want to go to a competition that is competitive to the Champions League, you might have to have a vote with your members due to the 50+1 rule. So there's also that. And I think also smartly, Bayern and Dortmund, they probably expected the backlash from fans, from supporters, and even from the media. And I think they were smarter than some others, and just said, no, we don't want to be in it. And that's also maybe down to these two not having investors who are in total control, not having someone who just makes the decisions on his own, basically, which is the case in at Manchester City, at Chelsea, at Arsenal, and so on. I mean, there is someone who's making these decisions. There are others who are, assisting him, but usually they do a lot of nodding in most cases, and they are just, yeah, you're right, of course, sir, you're right, sir, yes, you're right, you're totally right, sir. Can I have another kiss? So. I mean, I guess that's also tells you something. And then the third major club, if you say that Bayern and Dortmund are the two major clubs that have rejected the proposal, the third one is Paris Saint-Germain. As you mentioned, they are probably getting a 14-day time frame where they can still accept an invite, but I mean there's a geopolitical reason for them not being involved, and the geopolitical reason is that they are backed by Qatar. Qatar is a major opponent against the United Arab Emirates, against Abu Dhabi, and so on. I mean, the blockade has just been lifted in January. Was held up against Qatar. The Gulf blockade was held up for 3 years, so that's something. And also Qatar is very close to the UEFA and to the FIFA, and they want to have the World Cup, and they basically bought the World Cup in a way. So their ties to the established associations are pretty strong. So of course Qatar says, no, we are sticking to the UEFA. And then there are a couple of other clubs who also rejected a proposal, or at least an approach by the Super League cartel. I would just call it cartel from here on out, because it's basically cartel. It's also very un-American to all of our American listeners, right? I mean, protecting business interests and by building a cartel sounds very un-American, very anti-open market. So a couple of our clubs that rejected the proposal by the cartel were Benfica, for instance, major membership base. I think the second largest membership base in the world, just behind Bayern, and Sevilla, multiple time Europa League winner. They also said, no, we don't want to be in it. So there are some clubs who are just not wanting to be part of it. And I think you can now discuss all the motives and all the reasons they don't want to be in it, and there are several, and they are varying. But I think something now is really coming to fruition is that those clubs who are not in it and who they will go down into the history books as the clubs that oppose this whole thing, and that are basically, and as weird as it sounds, on the right side of history. And that will be good PR for them. It will help their reputation. I mean, maybe not so much Paris, because PSG they are with Qatar, they are with the FIFA, so I don't know if they really can elevate their reputation. But for Dortmund and Bayern, and also for Sevilla and I don't know, Napoli and Olympique Marseille, Ajax, and so on, I think it helps them that they are not in it, and they are outside, and they are saying, no, we are sticking to the true football and to established football, and we are sticking to what we have learned and have just learned to love and like, at least. So I guess that's also helping them in a way. Well, we will see. I mean, especially for the German clubs, and not just for Dortmund. Of course, we are talking about this from a Dortmund perspective, but for the German clubs, it's a very, very positive thing. And now the entire football world is again talking about 50+ run rule, and is about, publicly owned clubs and what's the German model. And I don't know how many interviews I've given the past 48 hours now about the German football, the German model, and all this kind of thing, the German identity, and is the German model replicable to in other countries? Could it be copied in Great Britain? Could it be copied in France, and so on? So yeah, I've given interviews in various languages about the German model now, and it's kind of intriguing to see. And also, by the way, RB Leipzig also rejected the proposal.
Yeah, another poster child of the German model. Lots of Claudia Schiffer content from Konstantin, obviously. Honestly, it's obviously a really tough one to swallow, I think, for a lot of football fans, because it is by definition very elitist, and it's a money grab. I don't really think, as Florentino Perez said, that it's going to save football in any sort of way. I also don't think it will make the game that much more interesting, to be honest. Also, I'm not really sure how this entire thing is supposed to work. That's also because I think the PR, as you said, the rollout, the unveil, or whatever, has been absolutely terrible. There was no communication, but I've said it in our little pre-talk. I think Perez himself talked about a pyramid, right? And what can happen with pyramids is, can happen in the Super League too, is that it's just very narrow at the top, and that means you have a monopoly or duopoly or something like that of one or two clubs after a couple of years who make the most money out of the Super League and who just dominate the competition, and then it's rather boring as well. So I think there are some pitfalls to it, and getting a 3.5 billion loan by JP Morgan and stuff like that, this whole thing is obviously then kind of financed by debt, and a lot of these clubs that you mentioned, they are very debt ridden. So it's very problematic whether this can actually be a sustainable business model that they have dreamed up. So I'm very skeptical toward whether it actually would be a success or not, and how they will try to even the playing field. There are terms like salary cap have been floating around, but there's just nothing really concrete right now. So while obviously if this really happens, it sort of would rattle the football world. I'm not entirely certain whether it really will happen. Maybe I'm a bit naive there, and it's very advanced. I think the next thing that we will see is sort of the battle of the lawyers and lawsuits, whether UEFA can actually make their threats count, saying that they will exclude clubs from competitions and players from national teams, etc., whether they actually can do that. I think the courts have to rule on that first. So, until then, everything is pretty much in limbo. I also don't know when this competition would start, etc., etc. But I thought it was interesting to discuss this. In the meantime, we also have Champions League reform, because starting 2024, we will no longer have a group stage with 32 teams. It's going to be 36 teams then, and they will play in a league format. Every team will be guaranteed 10 games against 10 different opponents. I'm not entirely sure how they draw that out, but I'm sure there's already something drafted which I just haven't seen. And after these 10 rounds, the first 8 of that set table will then go to the round of 6 teams, and teams that are placed between 9th and 24th then will have a playoff round to play for the round of 16. And as you can already calculate, that means more games. It's instead of 125 games, it will be 225 games. So that obviously means more money, and more money obviously also means that the rich clubs will be getting richer off of this. What's a little bit controversial and has a flavor of the Super League in my view is that from the 4 additional spots, 2 will be sort of dedicated for teams based on their coefficient or their UEFA ranking of the last 10 years. So, for example, right now, if you would take this ranking, Dortmund would still qualify one of those spots, even though they're not in the top 4 in the Bundesliga right now. So, I guess this is maybe why Dortmund were supportive of this reform, even though there were a lot of fan protests. Watzke said to ARD that in his eyes, this reform is sort of the only way to prevent the Super League. I think this has been seen also very negatively. It's called the Swiss model. Konstantin, how do you think the Champions League will change starting 2024? Do you think it will be more exciting this way, or do you think it will be even worse and the sort of the rift between rich clubs and not so rich clubs will grow ever further, which is already doing as is? It's snowballing in the status quo.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a fan of the Champions League reform, but I don't think it's like a tragedy as some people have made it out to be. I guess one of the negative points to me is that because you abolish the group stage and you have this league system with more matches, it's just, more matches in general. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think some people might, look at it and think that's something positive to have more matches, watch more football, but I don't think so because it waters down the product and waters down the quality of the single match.
I agree. I agree. It's also maybe just too much. You're just going to be overwhelmed as a fan if you literally have
and also some of the teams. So what you see right now, I a few weeks ago I looked into the numbers of basically the mechanical numbers, so to say, like running, high intensity distance, sprints, and so on. And what you can see is that like the leap between league football, Bundesliga and La Liga and so on, and the Champions League is considerable. So clubs and teams go 30% or have 30% more intensity in the Champions League compared to league matches.
Yeah, I think as Dortmund fans, I think you can really see that well.
But that's more anecdotal evidence. But it's really a general, it's a general thing that just teams go all out in the Champions League and even to a lesser extent in the Europa League, by the way. The Europa League is still, in terms of intensity, much higher than the Bundesliga, for instance. So these clubs or the teams try to go all out in the matches, even this group matches. And I think the group stage allowed for more surprises because you had only 6 matches. So let's say a slight underdog in the group could still end up being second or first because just, a couple of matches, win here and there and you're qualified. Now you have to play 10 matches.
Yeah. So and I don't even know how the home and away schedule is going to be. I feel like everything is a bit more random.
It's a little bit more, and we have a large American audience here, so it's a bit more NFL-like, where you play some teams at home, you play some teams. Of course, there are divisional matches, of course, divisional games, but there are also so you play them at home and you play the other away, and the schedules are just made up a little in a way. It's not like that, I know, but a little bit like that. The schedules just vary a little bit from year to year, and it's somewhat random. And I guess that's also the case with the new Champions League. I'm not as down on the reform because if you look back since the Champions League became what it is, basically, going back or going away from the European Cup where only the national champions could play in it, you had different kinds of formats. You had one format I remember where you had 2 group stages. There was like a second group stage with only 3 teams per group before they went into the semifinals. I remember that was like around 2000 or so. So there were weird formats over the years, and I don't think that's a bad thing. You can try things out, you can change things. Even national leagues try things out. Some leagues, the Netherlands played the playoffs, and other leagues played relegations, and like in the Bundesliga we have like now relegation playoffs, which was not a thing 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So I mean, we can try things out. I don't know, I'm not against it. I think the new league system will eliminate more surprises, or will make it harder for underdogs to really go into or get into the round of 16. Still possible, in my opinion, because maybe the top teams can't go all out in the Champions League anymore because of the schedule, because they have to play more and more matches, and at some point your players just are fatigued, and you can't show 100%, and maybe some underdogs can still, because they are dominating their home league. They are
it's an
Dynamo
interesting
Kiev.
point you're making.
Yeah.
That actually with the added schedule and the more games, actually maybe some top teams will suffer domestically this way. Like
or the other way around, that they will suffer in the Champions League, because just think about it. I just said Dynamo Kiev. That's wrong, of course. Shakhtar Donetsk, right? They are. I have to look at this at the Premier Liga right now, but I think they are usually dominating Ukraine, so they can save some energy sometimes in domestic games, play the bench and stuff like that, and they still get by, or Dynamo Zagreb or something in Croatia, so they can save some energy for the Champions League matches, while let's say Manchester City in the Premier League or Real Madrid in La Liga, they can't, because they have a tight championship race there usually. And even Bayern, I mean, this year, like they couldn't rest and just don't take it seriously, because RB Leipzig was closely behind them. So I guess it can help some of the teams, because they can rest more, and maybe the top teams suffer in the Champions League, because they still have to take the domestic championship seriously. And I mean, granted, we just speak as the Super League is not existing. If the Super League exists, then I don't know what we are doing here anymore. But if it's just the old system, then I could see some of the, let's say, underdogs, but still competitive underdogs, like Shakhtar Donetsk, for instance, FC Porto, and so on, that they have a fair chance going into the round of 16 because of the new system. But I'm not down on it as much as other people, because things have been tried out with the Champions League. I guess there is some outrage against the 2 spots being there for teams that are not qualified through the league competition, but still can get in through the ranking. So I mean, it's precisely like this. Let's say Borussia Dortmund are. They are finishing 5th, then you would be qualified for the Europa League, and because of the ranking, because of they are one of the best ranked team in the UEFA 10-year ranking, they can still qualify for the higher competition. But they have to at least be in an international competition. They just can't be, if you are 15th,
right?
As Borussia
you need
Dortmund,
to at least be in the Conference League, as far as I know, right?
Yes,
I forgot to mention that.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Otherwise, if you have a terrible season like Arsenal right now, I mean, then it's just over, So it is still a backdoor for some of the top clubs to get in if they had a bad year, but there's still something, there's still something required. It's not just, oh well, we finished 14th, but we are on the UEFA ranking, we are 12th or something, and we are still in the Champions League, although we are right now in shambles. So that's not working. It's still you're slightly below the Champions League, and you can still get in. And it's only 2 spots, so I don't see it as a tragedy. It's still we know where it's heading, and it's funny because to use a reference to another sport, but the UEFA are now the baby faces here. They are the good guys because of the Super League cartel thing. But quite frankly, I mean, no, of course not. If there's no Super League, we would right now talking about the Champions League reform, and that's a shit show, and so on and so on. We aren't, because we think all right, that's not the worst thing in the world, because look over there at Florentino Perez being on Spanish television and talking out of his rear side, where we are back to topic A.
Yeah, I mean, to quote the wisdom of my wife, if you see this from the Bundesliga perspective, sort of the chance that Bayern will actually not finish in the top 4 is super minimal, so it doesn't really doesn't really affect Bayern, and it also doesn't affect Dortmund in the sense that if they qualify for the Champions League or another club through that top 10 ranking, there will be shit anyway, and then just get dumped out of the Champions League anyway. So that was her logic. So she just didn't care. So kind of like that explanation. Obviously, that's not always how football works, but yeah. Anyway, I think we can leave it here on the whole Super League UEFA thing. I hope on Thursday we will get another Matthias rant, former Tottenham supporter and Inter supporter.
retired and recovering Tottenham supporter. I guess it's the thing. Like, yeah, it's interesting. It's also interesting to see on Twitter how many now folks are like, well, I was a Liverpool member for 40 years, but you know what? F you, I don't know. I'm just doing something else. I'm just going to horse riding or something. Now, I mean, I'm not making fun of it. It's just interesting to see. You know, like, actually, to finish it off, but I wasn't really I was expecting backlash from fans, but I wasn't expecting the kind of backlash we have seen in the past 48 hours. I think there is something to be said about peer dynamics and just, you know, people getting reinforced their worldviews by ours, and then thinking, yeah, we have to do something. We have to have collective action against this whole thing, because there have been other things in football, World Cup in Qatar, you know, where there's like nothing against, or I mean, there are media reports against Qatar, but there's not much against Qatar in terms of
solidarity,
you know, in terms of protests, and solidarity and protests and so on. But this thing, you know, that this has changed. This has changed something in football, and I'm quite intrigued to see what's happening in the next few years. And if this thing for the Super League cartel, if this, you know, thing goes bust, I'm really intrigued to see what some of the owners do, especially the American owners. What they will do, I guess, because because especially they are really into this thing. You know, Abu Dhabi with Manchester City, Roman Abramovich with Chelsea, 11-hour editions. They will not change a thing if this thing goes bust. They will just return to, you know, normalcy. But ours, I mean, there might be something where things will change drastically, and also kind of, you know, who trusts Andrea Agnelli anymore? I don't think there's one person in this world who other than his family, and even his family. Like, I mean, who is the godfather of his daughter? I think.
Or granddaughter?
Alexander Jefferin, the UEFA president, who's now accusing him to be a liar and a snake. I mean, god damn it. It's so great. So who's trusting Agnelli anymore? I don't think. I wouldn't buy a used car from him. And there are many used cars from his company.
Well, maybe Stan Kroenke will make his own Super League with blackjack and hookers. In the meantime, though, Dortmund did win on the weekend, on Sunday, after both Eintracht Frankfurt. So Dortmund's future coach beat Gladbach's future coach, as Gladbach beat Frankfurt. And obviously Wolfsburg lost against Bayern, which means with those 3 points, Dortmund are now 4 points behind Frankfurt and 5 points behind Wolfsburg. And as you all know, Dortmund do play against Wolfsburg on next Saturday, I think. So after the Union Berlin game, if the midweek results don't go completely terrible for Dortmund, they do have a chance to cut down the lead from Wolfsburg down to 2 points. And that is obviously something that can be overcome. So there is still some rest hope, I would say. In the meantime, though, Konstantin, I don't know how much you saw of this Bremen game, if anything at all, but if you have any takeaways, what are they, or what would they be?
Well, my first takeaway, of course, is that Erling Haaland is back. He's back in the game. At least against Bremen, after he was quite discovering young Norwegian against City. So I guess that's a good thing. It's nice to get, you know, sliding back into the goal scoring rankings just via penalty. That's usually the easy thing to do. That's one of the takeaways, and I don't know. I liked actually. I mean, he didn't play his best match by any stretch, but I actually liked that Terzic tested Mahmoud Dahoud as the central midfielder, because I think because watching Emre Can over 180 minutes or how long it was against City gave me feelings inside myself I didn't want to feel. Just, you know, it's like the, you know, anti feeling basically. So yeah, I mean,
Konstantin discovered his inner dark side.
yes, I went old Darth Vader in some of these moments, and just wanted Emre Can to disappear off the face of the earth. But I guess, and Axel Witsel is out, and we know, and I mean, Axel Witsel was slow before the injury. I don't know how slow he will be after the injury. We will talk about the Nuri Sahin situation there in the
Oh boy.
in a couple of months probably. But there's also a positive to being Nuri Sahin slow, because you are basically equally slow moving forward and backwards. So there you go. But back to the topic. I guess testing Mahmoud Dahoud as a holding midfielder, to use a traditional English term, is kind of something I would like to see more. Because moving forward, if you don't sign up any kind of tremendous holding midfielder, you're kind of I don't even know who. There's no Joshua Kimmich on the market. So I guess you have to look at what you have, and I think Dahoud playing the center midfielder role is it's an option, I think. And also one thing I want to mention is Bellingham, great match against Bremen again. And I remember when Bellingham was signed, I don't know, back in the day, and I was saying on Twitter that he could play in as an attacking midfielder and so on. Everyone was like, no, he's not an attacking midfielder. He's a central midfielder, and he's playing, he's a holding midfielder, he's defensive midfielder. Well. What have the past few matches taught us? It's actually that Jude Bellingham playing in an attacking role, basically as a second striker in some cases, or even as a hybrid winger, is actually what you should consider moving forward, because it's kind of a role that he can play very well, and he fits. So yeah, there you go. That's just my last thing I wanted to bring up. And is there anything else? I mean, Marvin Hitz, right. We just say nothing at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he could have arguably left his line a little sooner. I mean, Dortmund were playing in this in their vintage 90s kits. Was sort of a throwback, but if you look at Marvin Hitz,
did you get a jersey?
No, I did not. I don't.
Yeah. When I logged in, I was number 26,000 something, and I was like, all right. Anyway.
Yeah. Also, I don't feel like I need to buy more Dortmund stuff. Even though I don't think I don't have a jersey here in the United States. I have a couple back at home in Dortmund, but I don't know. I don't feel like spending money on this stuff. But what I was
funny thing. Sorry to distract, but I think there was some foreshadowing with the Super League, by the way, a few weeks ago. A company sent me a gift, and it was a Juventus shirt.
Huh.
And I think there was, I should have gotten the hint, but I didn't.
Well,
yeah, so I don't know. Out of nowhere, a company that wanted to, I don't know what they wanted to do, because I'm an influencer or something. They sent me a gift, and it was a Juventus shirt, or one of these expensive shirts. They wanted to like for $130 or so. It's just sent me that as a gift, and I was like, why Juventus shirt? I should have known.
Well, I don't think my joke is funny anymore, because everything's gone now. But I was going to say that maybe he should have played in a Uhu shirt, because that's a very old Dortmund shirt with the Uhu, which is a glue, because he was glued on his line and not coming off. But yeah, exactly. But we obviously can talk about that. Also, Moray not really helping the offside trap there. I think that was something that Terzic criticized at today's news conference. That maybe they should focus a little bit better on the offside trap, and maybe do that all in unisono, is I think what he said, loosely translated. Other than that,
I like when he speaks Italian.
Yeah, me too.
In unisono.
Anyway, speaking of Italian, Gio Reyna, obviously one of his better performances, and much needed. The strike for I think it was the 2-1. No, it was the 1-1. I think that was one of the best and cleanest strikes you can see in football. It's just beautiful the way the ball bounced, and he just hit it with the top of his shoe, and it just hit the top corner, and the ball had almost no rotation. It just like on a straight line flew into that top bins, and that was really beautiful to see. And obviously he sort of assisted the third goal as well, even though there were 2 deflections in the way for Erling Haaland. So that's how it's basically going right now. That we have Haaland and Reina back in form, and even if it's just one game, that is positive. And I have to agree with you in regards to Jude Bellingham. I thought, especially like about 20 minutes into the game when Dortmund really became more dominant after conceding, I think the fact that Bremen had hardly any combination in their own half, they sort of just had long passes and they were then just snuffed out by Dortmund's defense. Hummels, etc. I think that has a lot to do with how Bellingham in particular, but also Reina, how they played, because Bellingham's very aggressive, pressing really high, and I really liked that. It was very intense, and you could see after 90 minutes how fatigued he was, and I was hoping for him to get subbed off. But that's sort of how the game was. I don't know if this was the best Dortmund performance ever. It's maybe more the story of how terrible Bremen were, and I thought they were actually also quite brutal, especially in the second half. There were a lot of lot of hard challenges. So I don't know, Bremen right now not really in any form whatsoever, but I think as a Dortmund fan you'll take it, especially since it was sort of a minus the part where Rashica scored. Jesus, I mean, I can ramble on and on, but it was nice to cruise to win. And I must admit that I really haven't seen the entire game because I was more engrossed in the Formula 1 race in Imola than watching Dortmund. So there it is.
Says the host of the English-speaking Dortmund podcast. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
I've got hobbies too. Okay, I like watching F1.
Yeah, you have your priorities, right? Yeah, watching Russell and Bottas crashing is more important than watching Dortmund.
Apparently, all yes. Right.
I will tell Marco Reis about it.
Okay, you do that, and then he will ask who that person is. So,
who is this Busco?
Yeah. Anyway, so Konstantin, that all being said, I think Cologne just took the lead against Leipzig, so that I think mathematically means Schalke are relegated, but obviously there's still some time to play in this game. But in the meantime, Dortmund will play against Union Berlin, a side that's right now 8th in the Bundesliga with 43 points. And I think their last game was a 2-1 win against Stuttgart. Their best goal scorer, without much surprise, even though he was injured for quite a long time, is Max Kruse with 10 goals. And the player with the most assists is Christopher Trimmel, their captain, with 8 assists. Terzic today said that Sancho could be back in the matchday squad after returning to team training on Monday. Meanwhile, Delaney is still out. I'll also add that Akanji and Hummels are both on 4 yellow cards, so if both get booked, they will miss against Wolfsburg. Union, meanwhile, are without Avoni, who scored in the 2-1 win against Dortmund last December, and they will also be without Becker. So, that all being said, Konstantin, what can Dortmund expect from this Wednesday night game against Union Berlin?
Well, I mean, the Union Berlin, as some say, or Union Berlin, I guess we all remember or maybe we don't remember because, it was quite a memorable night, but we should forget the 2-1 loss against Union in December. Second 18 Terzic match. And that was
2 set pieces.
I think sorry?
2 set pieces.
2 set pieces. Yeah, two sad pieces. Yeah, that's right. That was kind of a shit show, to be honest. Especially like if you remember, like there was defeat against Stuttgart, and we forget about that. And then there was this ugly win over Bremen, and everyone was like, "Yeah, maybe they are back, maybe." And then playing at Alte Försterei, and getting beaten by Union. All right, back to Favre. So it was kind of a disappointment, and there was it then against Braunschweig, of course, that at least getting to the next round in the cup. But I'm not sure what to expect, actually, to be honest. I mean, I guess probably something similar to the first match, just Dortmund having a lot of possession, and Union doing not much. It's also interesting. I mean, they are, they like to have the ball themselves, but if they don't, if the other team says just nope, we are the the playmaking team here, then they don't bother. Then just let them do their thing, and then just try to get some turnovers and counterattack. And also, interestingly enough, I mean, Union is one of the teams that runs the least, by the way, in the entire league.
Lazy.
So it's they're basically lazy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just not in the blue collar club and everything. It's just no, they're white collar lazy. No, but seriously, I mean they don't really run that much, and which is. First of all, it's interesting to see that they are not a high intense, high pressing kind of team in most cases, but also they are fairly good with managing their energy. And so they are consistent over 90 minutes in most matches, which is a big plus for a team, especially now with having matches on Saturday and Wednesday and Saturday and so on. So I guess that's also something to keep in mind. So Dortmund, they have to be smart with substitutions, because Dortmund, they are not a team that is managing their energy fairly well. So I hope that Terzic reacts quick enough in this match and not waits for too long, because that's kind of the MO of most Dortmund coaches in the past 10 years or so, that substitutions only after the 17th minute. Other than that, we don't do it. We don't do that kind of thing over here in Dortmund.
I don't know what you're talking about. Terzic brought on Piszczek at halftime against Bremen, so that's a very proactive move.
Yes, of course. I mean, now Piszczek time is back. It's interesting. No, but seriously, it's just sometimes the coaches wait for too long. So I hope that's not the case against Union. And other than that's just how many mistakes will Dortmund commit?
That's really the question.
Is it below? What's the over under here? Is it 4.5 crucial mistakes? Is it under? Then they might win. Is it over? Well, the 3 points go to the club from East Berlin. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the question. If I remember correctly, Dortmund had around 70% possession in the first game against Union this, or rather last year it was, but this season. So it's probably going to be not fun to watch. Maybe it will feel a bit like the cup games that Dortmund had against Union previously, where I think they also went to overtime. Not much fun, really. Especially since Dortmund do struggle to break Union down, and their coach usually has a solution of how to cut off Dortmund's most dangerous players. So Terzic really needs to come up with something, I think, surprising. He needs to draft something, I feel like a couple tactical ploys that he hasn't really shown, or just not frequently. I wonder if Julian Brandt will make the team sheet once again. His game against Bremen wasn't really half bad. I don't see a reason why you would start Hazard right now. So, and as you said, I think the Dahoud, Bellingham, Brandt trio in midfield, if you will, is maybe a good solution against Union Berlin too. Obviously, they are, especially Brandt, sometimes is very error prone, but so is Emre Can. Delaney, as I said, is still out. So yeah, these I guess are your options. I don't know how fit Dortmund are right now. They obviously had a lot of tough games in recent weeks, especially against Manchester City. All this is very draining. So like I said, it's a rest hope for Champions League qualification for Dortmund. But I don't know if they can overcome this Union Berlin team. I mean, on the one hand, yes, you can obviously, as Borussia Dortmund, always turn up and just smash any team of the Bundesliga, except for Bayern maybe, but even then, that even Bayern are smashable on their night. So Konstantin, since we're almost 1 hour into this, and if Schalke indeed get relegated in like a couple of minutes, I want to be there live to enjoy it all. Why don't you just go ahead and give me a prediction?
I go with the typical 1-1. It's a draw.
Fine.
People.
Yeah, I was going to say 2-2, but I want to be a bit more optimistic, and I'm just going to say Dortmund are going to win this 3-1. So why not? Let's keep some excitement for the Saturday match against Wolfsburg, which surely then if that all happens will be exciting. Obviously, we do not know how Wolfsburg and Frankfurt will play respectively. I think Frankfurt will play against Augsburg. I don't know who Wolfsburg are playing in this midweek game. Maybe you can help me out here. Any idea?
No.
Oh no. Let me look it up. They are playing in Stuttgart, so actually that's not an easy match either. So maybe that will be interesting. Let's keep an eye on that. It's also the Wednesday match, parallel to Dortmund's games. So right now, I'm honestly hoping more for Wolfsburg to drop out of the top 4 than Frankfurt, because it would be obviously much cooler to have Frankfurt in the Champions League than Wolfsburg. That's just my opinion. Anyway, let's get out of here. As always, I want to thank all our listeners and especially our patrons, because without your support, this podcast simply would not exist anymore, at least not in this form and with this frequency. So to all of you who are supporting us financially, a big thank you. If you want to contribute, go to patreon.com/theyellowwall. Konstantin, how can people follow you on Twitter and read all your written and audio work?
They can follow me on Twitter @cc_Eckner, and yeah, I guess that's the best way to reach me and find my stuff. You know, they can check out my Twitter account. They can
German speakers can follow you on YouTube.
German speakers can follow me on YouTube, youtube.com/Konstantin Eckner einfach.
Einfach.
Simply,
yes.
Simply einfach folgen da, and so that's for the German listeners, but they can also check out my Twitter account, I guess, because there's usually everything I do for radio, TV, and written stuff. It's findable there,
Findable.
So I guess findable. Yeah, it's a new word.
Just like
I just made it up.
Leipzig just found an equalizer against Cologne. God damn it.
Oh, no. Now we are all hoping for Bielefeld or what?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. To wrap it up, that's how they can find me. And, thanks, of course, to all the Patreons who are keeping this ship afloat, who are putting food on Stefan's table, who are also the backbone and the the good soul of this show, and stay strong, guys.
All right, we should be back on Thursday with hopefully more Matthias rants. I'm looking very much forward to that, to be honest, and hopefully win from Dortmund. You can follow me @Stefan Butzko on Twitter. You can follow all of us on Twitter and Facebook @Yellowwallpod. And if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, you have to type Yellowwallpod into the YouTube search mask, and that's where you'll find it. Otherwise, you can subscribe to the show via, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, etc. All the various ways and means. But in the meantime, as always, thank you for listening, and goodbye.